Mark,
What's happening?
what's going on? We are almost halfway through Dark Crisis already, and I know, but we also found out that we really haven't even gotten to the crisis yet.
No,
So
no.
we will talk about all things Dark Crisis number 3 right after this. So here we are. We're at number 3 already. 3 out of 7, almost halfway through.
It's
Um,
getting there. It's getting there.
exactly.
It's
Um,
starting to pick up the pace for me with this issue.
it really is. This is actually this issue may actually be a collector's item because this will be the last one that doesn't have of Infinite Earth on it.
Of
So,
Infinite Earths, yeah.
um, so yeah, that John Jang. If you can get that John Jang cover, man, that is pretty. He
Yeah.
just knocks it out of the park every single time.
Yeah, he's got a very unique style. I enjoy it a lot.
Mhm. So let's jump right into the issue. We kind of start out with just some kind of this superimposed voice over some of the things that have been going on about how people are scared. Deathstroke is attacking people. A lot of the heroes are afraid to take him on because it seems as though he's even more sadistic than he has been in the past. People are hanging up their capes. Other ones are spending time with their family. So it's very, very fatalistic on the first page.
Yeah, I think we're starting to finally feel the weight of the event happening to the people in the world as well. You know, the people in the streets are scared. Heroes are even sitting there upset and everything, and proceeding to bars in their rooms, and you can actually it's starting to feel like it's really hit the fan with this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we find out, that Garfield, is still alive. He's going to make it, although um, it is said that the trauma that he has suffered may be worse than the actual bodily injury, than that he has endured. Um, and then we get Wonder Girl talking about how Nightwing has basically just sat at Garfield's side and hasn't left there. Again, showing the weight of what's been happening
It's
on
starting
not
to
just
sink in for him.
exactly. It's funny because just a few issues ago, he was kind of everything's going to be okay. The Justice League isn't there; they're going to be back. It's like, and now he's basically on almost like a watch over one of his best friends, who is trying to recover in the hospital. Um, but we hear that all the C&D villains now are coming out and they're taking their shot at people not just in Gotham but all over the place. We hear again that just the Young Justice is missing, so just kind of a nod over to that miniseries. And we say and Barbara Gordon says that Damian is working with John Kent's team, and
Don't you
um,
mean Black Adam's team?
yeah, exactly. So we jump to Black Adam, who's working with the team that John put together, and basically he's not very impressed,
Yeah,
to
it's
say
not
the
going
least.
really well for him at all. And the name of this issue is Boot Camp, which plays into this scene right here, where you have Black Adam attempting to train this ragtag team of not just heroes, but villains that are supposed to be a line of defense for the Earth moving forward. And it's really just not shaping up for him at all. Black Adam, his tactics don't really line up with the team dynamic. He's really trying to urge them. And in this event, in this crisis that's happening, we are going to have to step it up. What these heroes are capable of is not enough, and is really suggesting that they lean more his way, the villain way, with killing. Like for the name of what you feel is right. That subjective right that he is really attached to, and they really have a real team blowout right there because of it.
Yeah, it comes to a head, on the very next page where Black Adam has Count Vertigo. Um, basically, yeah, in like a headlock, where you can basically see in one of the panels you can see like the blood is spurting out of his nose and out of his eyes and everything. He's got him in such a headlock, and it comes to a head with Jonathan Kent and Black Adam basically on opposing sides, to the point where, you know, Jonathan pulls that one thing that all Supermen do whenever they get really mad, and that is his eyes turn red, and it basically says you need to stop.
Yeah, you actually had Yara that was the
Yep.
one that finally pulled him off. You know, like after John flares up at him, it's the magic lasso that stops him. And Yara, who turned down this team initially, has now shown up. So things have gotten bad enough, you know, that her initial thoughts of I'll just take care of mine and my own isn't enough. And she realizes that. So now we have Yara Flor joining John Kent's team and Black Adam leaving the team.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then we have some dialogue between Damian and John, and it's kind of, you know, I was kind of
Yeah.
comparing it to the dialogue that they would have when they were both, you know, 8 or 10 years old in the Super Sons, and now the dialogue that they're having now when they're both supposedly, you know, the legacy heroes of, you know, Superman and Batman, and it's you know, they're really, you can see the two sides, where basically Damian says, you know, he may be right, and he basically says that they haven't seen the worst of it. He has a line in there somewhere that talks about how Alfred used to say it's always darkest before the dawn. And
Mhm.
he says, but I have a feeling that we're not even at the darkness yet.
We haven't reached the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's you can tell like where their upbringing is really coming to show the differences between the two, where he's at that moment of crisis and he's like regressing, you know, he's getting more gritty or realistic is what he calls it. He's thinking more violence is the answer. And John's upbringing when he regresses and goes back to it is it's staying true to his nature here, and he's not about it yet. So I think we're going to see a John Kent pop off before this is all said and done. I'm not saying he's going to kill anybody, but we're going to see one of those savage moments from John Kent for sure.
Yeah. Because, and at one point he tells Damien that the Justice League is what gives people hope. It's representing hope. And Damien says that's probably why
Maybe
they're
that's
dead.
why they died.
Yeah.
And then you get that really cool panel after he said that, where Yara, John, and Damien are all just standing there silhouetted with their heads down from that statement, because it kind of gives you the feeling that, you know, it's starting to set in for them. We, the readers, know better now. And when this started, the characters inside of the book, for the most part, knew better as well. You know, death is not the end. There's a way to get people back, but the weight of this death is finally sitting in for them. They don't know what to do.
Right. And so we get what I think is so far the moment of not only the issue, but the moment of Dark Crisis. And this voice off screen says, you know, if you don't have a Justice League, how about a society?
Boom. And the JSA roll back in for the first time in continuity in a long time.
Yeah.
We had their return to continuity in Doomsday Clock, wherever that fit into continuity. And then in the Stargirl summer break special last year, but then their series got scrapped. So this is like their official rollback into continuity. So that's all that we really get from them, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a who are you going to call, Alan? These kids should have come to us from the start. And they say that like they've been there, like where you been? You know, not just for this event, but where you been?
Right. And they're going to play a really important part too, because some of the art that's come out from future issues shows Alan Scott
leading through the stairs with his light.
Exactly. You know, so this isn't just going to be a hey, they're back, and then they're going to fly off, and you know, maybe somebody will use them later on or something. But yeah, it was so great to see this. Obviously, Jay Garrick was not here though, because he's off doing what he needs to do to try to bring back Barry Allen. So he was not in this picture, but I'm assuming that he'll be part of the Justice Society as well. So then we go back now, and we go back to Deathstroke headquarters, and we see really how off the rails Deathstroke really is.
Yeah, that ain't Deathstroke anymore. Definitely not Deathstroke. Sitting there talking to the voice in his head. The Great Darkness has just infected him completely, obviously. They bring Ravager there at his orders, and he's not trying to kill her or anything, just really trying to bring her to the dark side.
Yeah, and you know, and she rebels against him, and he basically erupts with this black goo or ooze or whatever you want to call it.
Darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
The darkness spews out of him.
Yeah, and he basically says, I think I know how to start a crisis. Again, emphasizing that we're not even at the start of the crisis yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is still
And it
all
did
setting
infect
everything up.
all of his acolytes. So now not only is the darkness driving him, which we saw in issue 2, that's why I think that Dick Grayson won that fight. That's why they've been attacking and retreating. It's all part of priming this crisis event. But it infected all of his acolytes, so it's actually spreading now. We know we have the Dark Army that's infected, Deathstroke that's infected. Now all of Deathstroke Inc. seems to be infected as well. It's just growing and spreading.
Right. And so then we go to Sector 666, and we see the Green Lantern Corps, and psyched to see Kyle Rayner back in a Green Lantern uniform again. It's been too long for that as well. But they basically think that maybe Necron has something to do with it because of the blackness and everything that happened there, and because there's a big old black lantern standing there on the planet.
Planet Riot,
So
Sector
right,
666.
exactly. Which I would do the math quickly, but I don't know how to. That's too much for me.
How many sectors away it is?
Exactly. It's like 2,200 and something, 2,100 and something.
It's not
so
close.
Yeah, exactly. So they decide that they're going to do a small group is going to go into the Black Lantern, and it's decided to be Hal and Kyle and Joe. Decide that the three of them are going to go into the Lantern. And they go in there, and who do they find but Pariah?
Hanging out.
Pariah. Yep.
You see Pariah, his machine, all the potential Earths that are created, all these, I don't know what we've been calling them, these different paradises that these characters are stuck in. It's just using them as energy sources, just surrounding the machine.
Right. And he says, because he even says that the heroes, as we've been talking about, he spells it out very distinctly and says that the heroes of Earth Zero are special. They're a world unto themselves, he says.
Hence the one shots, kind of playing into why we have those one shots.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so he tries to bring Hal Jordan to his side by talking about Coast City. When Coast City was destroyed, remember what you did to try to bring Coast City back. And Hal's like, that wasn't me. And he's like, but you still got it back. And and he's trying to plead to him, saying that's all. Price saying that's all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring my worlds back, to restore what was lost. But then Hal Jordan says, well, maybe you say you're controlling the darkness, but maybe the darkness is controlling you, and that just sets Pariah off, and says, you don't know. And so then we get an onslaught from Hal, from his ring, constructs of all the missing Justice Leaguers that attack him. Yeah. Which doesn't do anything really. And so he says his world is nothing. It basically does nothing. He basically says your world is broken, and instead Hal rushes him, and he ends up being sucked into something and dropped into basically another world.
Yeah, he says, let's see how far down the rabbit hole I can go. He intentionally goes into the orb with the Green Lantern symbol. He realizes, I think that he realizes from the start that there's nothing they're going to be able to do with Pariah. We're going to do this a different way. So he tells Kyle and Joe to keep up with Pariah. I'm going to go see how far down the rabbit hole I can go. And he goes into the orb, which was pretty violent.
Yeah. And he ends up basically in Sector John Stewart.
Yeah, that's the name of it. And I do want to point out the really cool callback again to the original Crisis, because the way that he enters the orb, he dematerializes much like Barry Allen did, and also like how the Justice League went away in issue 75. He just melts down, looks like he dies, but then he immediately rematerializes. So it's the first time when we see the before and after. Normally we just see what happens to him, and then there they are. But he goes away and gets reconstructed immediately inside of the orb in the little paradise world, like you said, Sector John Stewart.
Right. And just before he disappears, too, he tells Pariah, that the darkness is not using the Justice Leaguers to restore the multiverse. It's using them as weapons.
It's turning them into weapons.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Pariah is a little foolish here, too. It's that road to hell is paved with good intentions. He's trying to make right what he did so many years ago when he started all of this and rebuild what he unintentionally destroyed. The Great Darkness is just using him like a pawn as well.
Right. And so we end up, again, Hal ends up on this world, which is in Sector John Stewart. It's interesting that the sectors are named for people, which I think will obviously play right into this week. We have the world without a Justice League Green Lantern coming out, so it'll play right
And
into
if you
that.
notice, the entire world is a construct. You know, I have a feeling that they're going to play into that world that John Stewart accidentally destroyed, killing everyone on it. I think that this is going to be his perfect world. They're all back, and we're going to be on that world constructed by him. I think that's going to be what this is.
Yeah. He did it in, what was it, Odyssey, Cosmic Odyssey, right? He destroyed that world. John Stewart, right?
And that's like his biggest failure. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. And so, and then I like how Al Jordan, when he calls it Sector John Stewart, he goes, Sector what now?
What?
And then we get the final shots of the issue with with Black Adam turning to who he thinks can actually help him resolve all this
crisis. Yeah, so he lands in the swamp and starts just talking. We don't know who he's talking to. He's asking, are you aware of what's happening? Deathstroke is out of control. The heroes left behind don't stand a chance. They didn't see what I saw. The Justice League is never returning. I thought I could push the young heroes to do what needed to be done. They are too concerned with hope. I believe it's time for. And then we get the big reveal, the last page of the book, Doom. And we get the Legion of Doom. Everyone's been wondering where they are. All the heroes, all the villains have not seen them. Lex Luthor sitting there in a new style armor. He's got the little tunic on and everything. You've got Sinestro, Black Manta, Grodd, Vandal. You've got the lineup right there.
Yep.
And the actual Legion of Doom headquarters in the back. We're in the swamp. And Punchline's even right there, front and center, which I thought was very interesting. She was created in sideline, so I like to see her getting some use, to see if we can get her killed and taken off the board completely.
Yeah. She's got a new series coming out.
Yeah. And you have Scarecrow in the front and center there too, which I think is odd as well. Punchline and Scarecrow's drawn in the Tynion style as well.
Right. But I think it's interesting to me. One of the things that I really is, they talked at the very beginning about all the C and D list villains coming out, and you kind of, without saying it, kind of the unspoken thing was, where are all the A-list villains? The A-list villains are right here. They're all part of the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, Lex is obviously more than aware of what's going on and already has a plan, as he always does.
Right. And so, but it's interesting that the title for, or the tease for the next issue is Deathstroke versus the Legion of Doom. So we may have some villain on villain action next issue.
I hope that they really bring some deaths and stuff, because my mind just goes back to Infinite Crisis and how that crazy that was. Like, just that was a savage event, especially when Superboy Prime showed up. So I'm wondering if this can hit that level of did they just go there? Did they just do that?
Right.
Yeah.
When Superboy Prime, when he pulled the arm off of Panther.
God, he just started slaughtering the Teen Titans. Not even. Why are you making me do this? Just blood all the way up to his elbows. Like, it was insane.
And that's where the issue ends. Just another quick thing, though, is got to collect them all.
Great issue.
Again, there are lots of references to what's going on in Dark Crisis in last week's Flashpoint Beyond as well. Again, so no matter what they say, I'm still not convinced that by the end of Flashpoint Beyond, they're not somehow going to be intertwined.
Yeah, and in this one, they really put all the references in the front, I believe, and like that first page, there's just a little bit of dialogue that we get, because normally, like, that out of main story moments we get are at the end. They were kind of in the front of this one, and it was just that one all black panel, darkness,
right?
And you had like a bunch of word bubbles. And they said, didn't you have enough problems with the great darkness making all your bad guys even, I don't know, badder? So they keep hitting on it and referencing it. So, this is needed. There wasn't much in here to tie into it, but that was started out strong. And there is a big kick in the back of this. They kind of when we get to regular Batman and the Time Masters turning on machines and activating the clock and everything. There's supposed to be some kind of twist to who Bruce Wayne's mom really is, some big secret with her. But I do want to point out when they turned that clock on, all we got, all we got was bright blue, 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 blue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's another subtle Dr. Manhattan tease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This right here. This is a less aggressive form of clapping, and I'm doing it. Like I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I still, as much as we were disappointed with the announcement they made at San Diego Comic-Con, I still think that our hypotheses may still prove correct.
Absolutely.
So that's basically it for this past week of Dark Crisis. This week we have the World Without a Justice League, the Green Lantern issue coming out. So I'm obviously I'm extremely excited to see that, as I am with all of them, but more so because it's Green Lantern too. So
absolutely. And everybody, do not forget to comment on this video to be entered in the big giveaway at the end of all of this. The more of these deep dives that you comment on, the better your chances of winning the ultimate prize of a complete set of Dark Crisis. Complete
correct.
set.
Complete. All the tie-ins, everything, and even maybe some extra things thrown in as well.
Absolutely.
It will be live. It will be doing some drawings during the live final Dark Crisis deep dive as well. So lots of good stuff coming up. But that's going to do it for this edition of DC Dark Crisis deep dive. I am Paul.
I am Mark, but we are
Legion.
You're now leaving Sector 2815.